You're listening. The Archdiocese of Chicago brings you programs about the people, events, and issues that touch our lives. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning, everybody. This is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference of Illinois. This is going to be a really exciting show because I can't hear anything. So we're going to have to figure out how we do this with sign language or however we're going to communicate. But nevertheless, we will make do here on not a nice Monday morning here in Chicago. It is 8 o'clock, and as we can probably see on the YouTube, we have our technician here come to fix everything. So anyway, it seems like it's been a while since the last show. And it's changed dramatically since I was here last in July, and the weather's different, the traffic's different, there's more people running around downtown, and the sound works. Let's turn it down now. Wow. I like to hear the sound of my own voice, but not that much. Okay, we're good. So anyway, it's Monday morning, and we're rolling now. So yeah, like I was saying, it's a world of difference since we last were on the air, and but we will forge ahead here. A lot going on in our state and in our nation. And today, I think we're going to really kind of take more of a statewide perspective, maybe a countrywide perspective. We'll come back to Illinois. We have three guests that promise to be very interesting, and a lot going on with all three topics. And it's interesting to see. We're going to follow sort of the national trends here. So let's set up the show. The first guest will be my colleague from the state of Texas. Her name is Jennifer Allmon. Jennifer is the director of the Catholic Conference in a state called Texas, largest state, second largest state in the country in terms of area. And so we're going to be talking about, maybe something you heard about a bill that came out of Texas recently that had to do with abortion law and providing access to women's services, and we're going to unpack that a little bit here in a minute. And then secondly, we're going to talk about another national issue. We're going to be talking with the director of Refugee, Resettlement at Catholic Charities in the Diocese of Rockford, just to the west of us, Janet Biljeskovic. I think I'm saying her name correctly. She's going to talk a little bit about what Catholic Charities is doing to resettle refugees, not only refugees from Afghanistan that are coming in, but also refugees from all over the world. It's a very interesting, exciting program that they run. And then finally, we're going to come back here to Illinois. The legislature just passed a bill that was much talked about bill, been around for a long time, many different iterations of it. It was finally passed. And that is the Clean Energy Jobs Act. And we'll be talking to one of the staff members at the Catholic Conference. Her name is Marilou Gervacio. She's going to talk to us a little bit about that issue. So those three issues take about 15, 20 minutes on each topic, we hope. And so let's delve into it. The first guest with us, we hope, is having better experience with sound, is Jennifer Allmon. You are looking good in Texas, Jennifer. I can see you. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Great.
Thanks for
good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for taking some time on this this new arrangement we have. So I was saying at the beginning of the program, kind of setting it up, that there's been a lot of talk about Texas in a lot of different ways. This abortion law has taken over the country. The dialogue, I'd say, a lot of it focused on heartbeats and 6-week bans and another provision of the bill that has to do with who gets allowed to sue whom. And it's all very controversial and very interesting and will be the subject of much debate. And we can talk about that for a little bit. But I think what's happening here is what we often find in our world is there's a lot more that goes on that gets reported. a lot more good news, a lot more good things that happen in the world that gets the media's attention because it doesn't pit one group against another. But I wanted to spend some time here this morning talking about another aspect of what Texas did. And I find it really interesting that almost nobody's talking about this. I think it's called A to A. Is that correct? It's alternatives to abortion, if I am saying it correctly. But you tell us a little bit about what the Texas legislature did and what they're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Alternatives to Abortion program has been in operation in Texas since 2007, 2008. And every year the legislature increases the funding for this program, which is really exciting. And this year they increased it by 25%. So what the program does is it provides assistance and resources and support for people facing overwhelming pregnancies. It gives them all the support they need to choose life. And that's why it's called the Alternatives to Abortion Act. And so the program funds pregnancy care centers throughout the state of Texas. There's over 200 of them. And they provide funding for pretty much any type of service needed for the family to choose life. And it's not just for moms. You know, we talk a lot about walking with moms and standing with moms. Dads need support too.
Yeah.
So there's fathering and parenting classes for both mom and dad, diapers, car seats, formula, clothing, counseling, financial planning. And it lasts till the baby is 3 years old.
Wow. No kidding.
So it really assists the family in supporting the life they've chosen.
So we have crisis pregnancy centers here, or pregnancy help centers, as I think they like to be called. I don't know how many are in Illinois. Actually, I'm on the board of one of them, Aid for Women, and it is a significant operation. And I think this is one of those areas of life where people need to be, more informed about what goes on in crisis pregnancy centers, and also to get more involved, because this is sort of where I think the test of our faith, kind of, if you will, the rubber hits the road. Because, let's be honest, that many of the women in these situations, they've made bad choices. They haven't always made good choices, not only how they got pregnant or when they got pregnant, but in a lot of other areas of their life. And things happen at them, at many of them.
Absolutely. I mean, the counseling aspect of the programs can't be overstated because oftentimes, just as you say, people who find themselves in this situation, the mom and the dad, they both need support and counseling in order to steer towards a more healthy path for their lives. And so, that's why the counseling can go on up until the child is 3. And a lot of our programs, like Catholic Charities and the Archdiocese of Galveston-Houston, they leverage the funding. So the state funds the program through age 3, then Catholic Charities uses their internal funding to fund it through age 5. That way the child has support for their family all the way through school age, when the school support system starts to kick in. So I think it's really important to share the good news about these programs, because so often the way the media reports it is, we're forcing everyone to have babies and we don't care once the baby's born. And this program destroys that argument, because it is our care in action. It shows on a daily basis that when we say we care, we back it up with support and action and practical resources.
The 6-week ban that's been the subject of so much attention, and the provision about allowing individuals to bring civil suit against other individuals, was that in the same bill as the Alternatives to Abortion provision?
No, the Alternatives to Abortion provision is in the state budget, and so it's not a standalone bill. The program exists because it's funded in the budget. So the amount of funding is $100 million per biennium. And so it's pretty substantial funding, and they serve, over 100,000 people per year, whereas there are about 53,000 abortions in Texas per year. So we're serving more lives than abortion is taking. And our pregnancy centers, in light of SB 8, in light of the heartbeat bill passing, we've been gearing up. Our diocese have been investing more and preparing to serve even more children with or without the state funding. Because we don't do it because the state funds it. We just get to do it longer and more because the state funds it.
So we're in Illinois. we're in an entirely different political climate than you are. You should be grateful. Sometimes you're in a state like Texas, and other times it's probably frustrating. But I hear now over the weekend that through some information that was said to me is that it appears that the advocates for these bills, the pro-abortion advocates, oftentimes, I hate to say that, but they do sound like that. So they are now entertaining legislation in Illinois because they are going to say that they have all these women coming from Texas to Illinois for abortions, that we now need to change our laws to allow for physician assistants and advanced practice nurses to be able to do surgical abortions, because all of these people are going to be coming from Texas and up to Illinois. And so now we have to prepare ourselves for that crazy argument, albeit I sometimes some things are so ridiculous on their face, I don't really know what to say that people are going to take that seriously, but they will. But one of the things that I think is a good response to that is exactly what you did in Texas. Well, if you really are concerned about this, you should put your money where your mouth is. But I was interested, like in Illinois, as I said, I'm on the board of a crisis pregnancy center, and I don't think in Illinois we would want any state money, because with state money comes strings and attachments. They would allow us to, that would be a foot in the door where they could coerce us to do things that we don't want to do. Are you concerned about that at all? Or it seems like you haven't had that problem in Texas to date.
Oh, no. I mean, again, it goes back to the political environment. In Texas, there's a strong support for religious liberty, and it's very clear in the program guidance that our religious liberty is protected. Now, it is clear also we don't proselytize using this money. Correct. And so we only bring in the spiritual support side of the assistance we offer at the request of the client. It doesn't mean that we can't. It just means that, when they come in, if they say they're struggling with what God thinks of them for considering abortion or for a past abortion, then that opens the door for us to have those conversations. But, at the same time, it's no secret that Catholic Charities is going to have a Catholic perspective. And so we've not encountered any strings or difficulties in the program operation in the current Texas political environment.
What's the environment like right now with the 6-week ban being in effect and this provision about the lawsuits? I think what we're in is that there's not many abortions being performed right now. I'm sure there are some, but there are probably not many. Yeah. What's the climate like right now?
It's interesting. So we estimate, and our allies estimate, that there's about 100 lives per day being saved by this law right now. Wow. That's how many are not taking place. As you say, there are still abortions occurring for those early abortions. The other thing is this weekend, I guess it was maybe Friday, there was a San Antonio abortionist who wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post kind of advertising that he's providing abortions in violation of the law post 6 weeks, and inviting the lawsuit and basically saying, come and get me. Right. And pro-life advocates throughout the state are saying, we're not going to sue right now because we're winning. If we bring a lawsuit, that changes the dynamic. So I haven't seen anyone stand up to sue him, because he's really flaunting it. At the end of the day, we've all said that the mechanism in this law is innovative and unique, and we're not sure how it's going to hold up long term in court. But morally, we have to do all that we can to protect human life. And so far, this law is doing a good job of that.
100 lives a day, that's significant. God bless you. That's a win right there. I mean, every day, that's incredible. And so it's our understanding then, so as long as nobody sues, the law will remain in effect because nobody would have standing to say that they've been impaired by it. Is that kind of what the thinking is at this stage?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. It only takes one, but at least so far. So when this law was going through, it just seems like, I heard about it, but you hear about a lot of bills being passed through the other states, but you don't really keep track of them. When you were dealing with this legislation, was it very controversial, or it's because it seems like once it went to effect, that's when the national media started really paying attention?
Yeah, it really wasn't. We had an interesting legislative session, I think, as all legislatures did in this year of COVID continuing. We passed 3 really strong pro-life bills this session. This is one of them. The other one is the trigger ban. And neither one of those got a lot of attention. And the trigger ban has the potential to end abortion soon under the Dobbs case. So if the Dobbs case is rolls back Roe v. Wade, we get to automatically apply that change in Texas law because of our trigger ban. In addition, with the heartbeat ban operating the way that it is, if the heartbeat ban is upheld and other states' heartbeat bans start to be upheld, we can take the criminal penalties that are not in our heartbeat bill and apply them to the heartbeat bill because of the trigger ban. So I think a lot of media hasn't even picked up on the kind of 1-2 punch of those bills. And then the third bill we passed was the chemical abortion safety protocol.
Yes.
Which puts in place a lot of safety measures for women by putting into our state statute the original safety protocol that was put in place under the Clinton administration. So it's not exactly, a pro-life push, but it is an important women's safety push. And the way that bill works, you can't prescribe the abortion medications to induce abortion through chemical means from out of state without incurring a Texas felony. So for your Illinois providers who are saying they're going to start seeing all these Texas patients, they can't mail them the prescriptions because that's a felony in Texas and they can be extradited under our law. And so it was a comprehensive approach, and the media, I don't think, has quite picked up on the way these bills interact with one another.
I know you're right. I was talking to a friend of mine, an attorney who follows this stuff closely, and the other day, and he was kind of walking us through some of these intricacies, I think you put it. And it's one of these things where it is very interesting to walk through the legal arguments on what happens and if other things happen. And so we're kind of in uncharted waters here, and he happens to know one of the individuals that was involved with drafting of these statutes, and they did think through some of these things. And, I guess we were talking about it here, and whether the whole controversy in Texas, I do think it does demonstrate, though, that what the intricacies, as we called it, that Texas wound up having to do is a result of how many years now, like 30 to 40 years of jurisprudence that basically says anytime a state seems to do something substantive on abortion, it's thwarted. That effort is thwarted and it's thrown out. So that frustration has resulted in some very clever legal maneuvering, and thus we have this situation in Texas and maybe in other states as well. It kind of bodes the argument for maybe you ought to look at Roe and see let's let the air out of this balloon and let states do what they need to do, and we can move on. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Mississippi case. That's going to be fascinating.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer, thanks for taking some time this morning. Very interesting developments in Texas. And so we're very pleased that you've been able to fund the alternatives to abortion at the level that you've had. That's significant. And as you said, 100 lives a day. So God bless you. And so we'll continue to fight here. We're going to have an interesting month or two. We have a parental notification law here in Illinois that for minors who are seeking an abortion that we are desperately trying to hold on to. And we continue to do that. And so we are concerned about the impact of the Texas law that gives some life to repealing that parental notification law. But we'll see. We're still in the fight. We've had some good conversations this week, but every week, as you know, is a different story. Jennifer, thanks.
We'll keep your efforts in our prayers.
Great. Thank you so much. Take care and have a good week. All right. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thanks to Jennifer Allmon for joining us from the state of Texas. And this is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference of Illinois. Don't go away. We'll be right back. When we come back, we are going to have Janet Biljeskovic. I think I'm pronouncing her name correct. We'll find out if I'm pronouncing her name correctly. She is the director of the Refugee Resettlement Program for Catholic Charities in the Diocese of Rockford. And she's going to tell us what's going on with the Afghan refugees and others. So don't go away. We'll be right back.
We're headed to the fairways for a fun-filled round of golf supporting the work of Catholic Charities in Cook County. Join us on Monday, September 27th for Catholic Charities Monsignor Michael Bolin Golf Invitational at Butterfield County Club in Oak Brook. Golfers of all skill levels are welcome as we hit the links and raise vital funds so Catholic Charities can continue to accompany clients on their journey to greater self-sufficiency. Skill contests, fabulous prizes, and good company await all who attend this signature event. For registration and sponsorship opportunities, call 312-948-6864. That's 312-948-6864. Or visit CatholicCharities.net.
Do you have an old bicycle that's not being used? Consider donating it to Catholic Charities Veterans Bike Project of Lake County. Skilled volunteers are refurbishing bicycles to make them safe and ready to be used by veterans to get to and from their new places of work. We also gratefully accept financial contributions that are used to purchase bike helmets and other safety accessories. Our veterans have faithfully served the United States, and now it is our privilege to serve them. For more information on the Veterans Bike Project of Lake County, call 847-782-4219. That's 847-782-4219.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Bob Gilligan. I'm looking up here. I'm looking at myself, and I can't find myself. This is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference of Illinois. It's the far-away shot, I guess. Oh, there I am. Thanks for listening this morning or viewing this live on YouTube. That's very, very high-tech here. So thanks to Jennifer Allmon for joining us on our first segment this morning. Now we're going to switch gears. We're going to be talking to Janet Biljeskovic. I hope I'm saying that correctly. If not, we're going to be told how to pronounce her name. She's the director of Catholic Charities in the Diocese of Rockford. Janet, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Good morning, and it's Janet Biljeskovic.
Biljeskovic. Am I closer?
Correct.
All right, Biljeskovic.
Yes,
all right, that's a
absolutely.
tough one. What Eastern European? I got that. Give me the country. I want to guess, but
Yes,
I'm going to say
from former Yugoslavia.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was going to. Which one? Serbia, Croatia?
Well, I like to say I'm from Yugoslavia. because I've been
Gotcha.
all over.
We'll stick with that. All right. One of the many. Janet, let's go with Janet. Janet, thanks for taking some time to talk with us this morning. And so tell us a little bit about what you guys have going on in Rockford. You have a fairly vibrant refugee resettlement program out there. Tell us how you resettle people from all over the world, correctly? Is that my understanding?
Correct. Good morning again to everybody. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, we do have a longer year-standing refugee resettlement program. We do resettle refugees from all over the world. Primarily, the past, within the past 5 years, we had mainly Congolese people, individuals from Myanmar, some Syrians, some Iraqis, and now expecting possibly some Afghan parolees.
So you don't have anybody from Afghanistan yet, correct?
Not yet. We have some cases assured, but not yet arrived to Rockford.
So you're talking, walk us through the journey of somebody who is a refugee. They're generally from, third world country. Generally somebody who's fleeing a situation. Walk us through how would they get to the United States?
Sure. Refugees, first of all, they have to be resettled or live in a third country, which means they run for the safety reasons, regarding, prosecution to the third country. Usually those are the neighborhood countries around where they are originally from. Then they are recognized by United Nations High Commissariat as refugees. Once they are recognized, then they are sent or referred to the countries who are accepting the refugees. Per se, it's United States, United Kingdom, Canada, etc. Once they're referred to United States for resettlement, then they are vetted by the Department of State, Department of Homeland Security. Then they are then referred to voluntary agencies. As one of voluntary agencies are we, so we operate under auspices of United States Conference, Catholic Conference of Bishops, but there are 9 other different resettlement agencies, as with Relief, Lutheran Immigration Services, International Rescue Committee, etc. And once they are referred to our national agencies, then they are referred to local affiliates, such the Rockford is. So generally, once they are referred to us, we receive through our database system request for verification or assurance of the case. And once we check all the biographical information and see if we are suited or we can accept and serve the family, we verify the case. And ideally, we receive 2-week notice of arrival before the family arrives to the United States, so you can prepare everything what's needed to properly accept the family.
That's quite a process. So you were saying earlier we have you've had people from Myanmar, from Syria, from Iraq, and that whole process, I can imagine, has to take some length of time with all those different governmental bureaucracies trying to coordinate the plight of somebody from one place to the other to make sure that they're safe and secure and all that. And so tell us about like some of the families when they get to Rockford. Do they have any idea where they're at? I can't even imagine what it would be like to say, like, I was living in, I'm going to just pick out a country, Miramar one day. My country goes through some kind of strife. I'm forced to flee my house. I go to another neighboring country, and then in a certain period of time, I'm living in Rockford, Illinois. What's that like for an individual?
Well, certainly that's very touchy, very fortunate, for them as I mean, I don't know how our listeners are, how much are they aware that some people are waiting in the refugee camps for 10 years and lose the hope, or even more than 10 years and might lose the hope that they are ever going to leave the camp and be welcomed in some other country. Now with the U.S., I mean, it's technology is a little bit different now than when I came, because I came as well as a refugee, so I didn't have a clue where the Rockford is. Looking at the map, Chicago, however around. So, however, now technology is a little different, so people do know approximately where they are, where they are arriving. But certainly, it is very emotional when they come. I'll tell you, for the many arrivals I went to actually wait for or greet. Many of them have kissed the soil.
Really?
Well, when they get off the bus, because our arrivals are coming with the Rockford bus. They are escorted by the IOM personnel in Chicago O'Hare, and they are placed in a bus to Rockford. So, and then that's where we actually greet them and take them to their apartment. So there are many prayers. We have a lot of times, hold the hands together and pray once we are in the apartment. So it is very, very touchy and very, very heart-filling.
And many come as families, correct? They don't come as individuals necessarily?
Correct. No, we have more families than individuals arriving. So
that's got to help.
With children.
That's got to help a lot. And their English ability probably varies, I would imagine, from little to...
English as well as education. We have someone with a really, wonderful English, so very, very proficient, better than mine. And then also we have someone who are illiterate even in their own language,
Right.
as well with the education background. We have many professionals, as well some who have not, who have hardly maybe finished their elementary school.
So I'm not sure if you know, but in terms of the big picture, now kind of focusing on what's going on with the Afghan refugees, I don't even know the numbers. I haven't read the numbers of refugees there are to be resettled. There are quite a number, I think, that are going to go throughout the entire world. And so I'd imagine most of them now are in camps at somewhere, probably Pakistan or something. I don't know. And then, but will this be an expedited process, do you think? Or it sounds like it's going to be.
I believe they'll probably do expediting processing, but we have to first probably, take care of the ones we have currently in our bases.
Okay. And so,
Military bases.
and I'm sorry, where? In the Army? In the
Military bases.
Bases,
around
right,
the
right,
United States, yes.
right. So those will come first.
I think
You would
that's
think
going
that's
to
the
be
case. Yeah.
evacuation. We, not evacuation, but the resettlement
Yeah.
of these cases, which they are going under the different, it's called the Afghan Parolee Special Program. And then we have just received to complete our proposal for the next year for the refugee processing. So I assume and believe that Afghan will be our primary, caseload, but we don't have to forget that Congo is still very active, as well, Syria and other refugees.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I don't know off the top of my head what the situation is in the Congo, but I'm sure it's not stable. There's still a number of refugees coming there, and as you indicated, Syria probably has a backlog of refugees because there were a lot. There were tens of thousands of people that were had to leave Syria.
Same with the Congolese and with the Syrians, of course, and other refugees, as well. But they are currently in the camps around the world. There are a lot in Tanzania, a lot in Zambia, in Egypt, in Turkey. So all around the world, they are waiting for the
for the process.
They're hoping to be resettled somewhere.
Right. So from an agency perspective in Rockford, knowing that you are probably going to be receiving some people from Afghanistan, is there anything that you need to be doing now to prepare for that? Or is it just does it really matter where they come from? I would imagine, I don't know this, but most refugees from Afghanistan, I don't know about their educational level. I would be willing to bet their English proficiency is probably not very high.
Well, the language-wise, we'll be surprised.
Really?
Because, they do vary. There's many of them who have actually worked with the U.S., United States military as well. They were contractors with the U.S. companies. Now, they probably did not have enough time to work for or to apply for the special immigrant visa holders. So, we really don't know what the background is. We are expecting that I have heard actually from some of the Afghani communities we have here in Rockford. We have very small but very, very well standing families from Afghanistan here in Rockford. We have placed probably 6-7 years ago because they are already all citizens. Actually some family members who are currently in a base are going to come to Rockford, and they actually have a college degree.
Oh, wow.
And they speak English. So we will see variety.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure that we will see the variety.
Yeah,
But
so you never know.
And as the refugees, as they come as well, that's then different. If they are processed from the, different countries than United States, like in every country, we will have the variety of the language and professions.
What's your assessment of the perception of refugees in the Rockford area? Rockford is not necessarily a rural diocese anymore. I think it's more like suburban area. Population is significant. Are refugees welcome, do you think, from the people in Rockford? Or what's your perception of, like, what's the average American?
My perception is that refugees are very, very welcome because we always have for any need or for any calls, if we need that, our community comes forward, our officials come forward. So we have great relationship. I mean, now with Afghanistan, I have from Rockford Police, they want to meet and greet. So everybody feels welcomed in. Employers are calling us.
Really?
Refugees have shown to be very responsible and employees. So we have a number of the calls. I wish we have refugees, that many refugees as much as a demand for the refugees as employees. So I don't really, here and there, sometime you might have, some calls which are a little, maybe not comforting, but in the general, Rockford is really very, very welcoming.
And I think most areas are. I asked that question just because I thought that's what you were going to say. I didn't know for certain, but my experience has been that people are people no matter where you go, and that if somebody is in need or they perceive that they can help somebody, people do it. And I think that's a great line that you said about the number of employers willing to hire people. You wish there were more refugees that you could send to them, or people who were willing to work. That's a testament to, I think, sometimes we get bogged down in silly things on these phones and all that, and sometimes face-to-face is, quite frankly, a lot better, and people are not as hostile as maybe they are led to believe on social media.
Well, one other thing is, too, what I, really gladly love to mention, it is sometimes there is that perception the refugees come and, they are using. But refugees come and they become very, very quickly consumers. Within the 5 years, majority, almost everybody, even less than 5 years, they buy the homes.
Really?
They buy cars immediately as soon as possible because we need the transportation.
Right.
So we just had a family of 11 who bought the house in very, very nice area in Rockford, and they came and they donated many stuff to our agency, for the other refugees, and they have husband, wife, and for adult kids, they're all working, and they are giving back. So
it's the American story.
Many
it's the American story. Are they eligible to become citizens, refugees? I think they are.
The refugees come as legal alien residents, and then after 1 year of arrival, they have to apply to adjust their status to the lawful permanent resident, which once they receive permanent residency, it will count from the day they arrive to United States. And then 5 years from the date of arrival, they can apply for citizenship and become citizens, which majority do.
That's great. Janet, thanks so much for taking some time this morning. It's very encouraging and enlightening, and God bless your work. And hopefully those refugees get to Rockford safely and get resettled and become part of the fabric of America. That's what we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So much
Thank you so much.
The time for me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, very interesting. Janet Biljeskovic, I think I got her name right, from the Rockford Catholic Charities Agency. All right. Don't go away. We're right back. We're going to be joined by Marilou Gervacio. She works at the Catholic Conference of Illinois. She's one of the associate directors, does the work for social justice concerns. Going to be talking about the Clean Energy Jobs Bill that just passed the General Assembly. Don't go away. We're right back.
Catholic Charities Veterans Employment Services help veterans find and maintain employment through job readiness training, resume writing assistance, mock interviews, and job placement counseling. We work with a wide array of employers and community partners to help veterans reach their career goals. We owe a debt of gratitude to all of our veterans for the sacrifices they made to serve our nation. It is our privilege now to assist them. To learn more about Catholic Charities Veterans Employment Program in Cook County, call 773-808-2954. In Lake County, call 847-782-4219. You can also learn more at CatholicCharities.net. To all United States veterans, thank you for your service.
Are you looking for quality, affordable childcare at this back-to-school time of year? Look no further than Catholic Charities Child Development Centers. We have 2 locations conveniently located in Berwyn and Summit, offering before and after-school care, as well as full-day childcare. Each center offers a safe, welcoming environment where children receive a nutritious breakfast, lunch, and snack while participating in a creative, age-appropriate curriculum that is challenging and fun. Preschoolers enjoy art, music, literature, and computer activities, while our school-age program includes homework help, art, sports, music, field trips, and more. Catholic Charities staff members are highly qualified, caring people who want the very best for every child. Our child care centers are especially popular with working parents. Enroll your child today. To learn more, visit CatholicCharities.net/childdevelopment or call 312-636-5398. That's 312-636-5398.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference of Illinois, and thanks for listening or watching our program here this morning on YouTube. Very interesting guests so far, and we will continue that trend here with our next guest, who is works at the Catholic Conference of Illinois. We're joined by Marilou Gervacio. Oh, there she is, who is, I don't even know your title. I should know that. Director of Social Justice Concerns or something like that at the Catholic Conference of Illinois. Marilou, thanks for getting up bright and early here this morning and talking with us. We're making you famous here.
Good morning, Bob.
Good morning. So I want to talk a little bit about that bill that passed. Boy, it's been forever. It seems like the constant drumbeat of legislation. This is like the new hot topic on what to do about the environment. And was it called Clean Energy Jobs Act? Is that what we wound up calling it? I don't remember what the final title of it was, but I know at one point in time it was. What's that?
Yeah, I think it ends up being something like the Climate and Equitable Jobs Act.
Yeah, I don't know. They change the names of these things in midstream, so we can never keep up with it. It seems like for the conference, we since Laudato Si was put out by Pope Francis, was that 5 years ago? That has created a whole new heightened interest and awareness about environmental concerns and what our obligation is to the environment, to be good stewards of the earth, to leave this planet at least in a good position as we came when we all arrived here. And that has become an increasingly, sort of a difficult thing to do. Not so much from a practical standpoint. I think Laudato Si has a lot of information and a lot of good ideas, and a lot of good ideas how to develop of individual things we can do as Catholics to help preserve the earth and make sure that we're trying to reduce our carbon emissions and make sure that the water's clean, the air's clean, that kind of thing. But I think we really sort of struggle a little bit as we get into sort of specific public policy recommendations, because as the bishops will say that, yes, we're called to do those things, but specifically how we do it and what public policies we put into place is kind of something that we struggle with a little bit. But nevertheless, why don't you walk us back to where we started on this issue and talk a little bit maybe about a statement that the bishops put out I don't know, what was that, a year ago, 2 years ago? Time just sort of marches on. I have no idea. You could tell me anything, I wouldn't be surprised. But the bishops did in Illinois recognize that this is a big issue. It's a one that's of increasing concern. And if you could, maybe tell us a little bit about the statement that the bishops put out and what all it entailed and where to get a copy of it if people want to look at it.
Sure. Yes, the statement was released last fall by the bishops, by the Catholic Conference of Illinois, our office, and it can be found on our website at ilcatholic.org. It's on there on our website. Basically, we asked the bishops to put out a statement because we anticipated a law being discussed and introduced in session last year. It actually had begun being discussed the year before, and we knew the work was going to continue during this year's sessions. We asked them to consider saying something about the environment, especially in light of the encyclical Laudato Si. So we released the statement last fall. And basically, we just, it starts out talking about the encyclical, about Catholic social teaching for care for creation. And then it does have a few recommendations based on discussions that had been happening of things that particularly the bishops wanted to see in any legislation that would be passed. For example, we talked about the Solar for All program in Illinois that was established in the 2016 law, the Future Jobs Energy Act, I think it was called, or Future Energy Jobs Act. I can't remember exactly the name, but so it started there, that Solar for All program, which is for low-income areas, low-income persons, and nonprofits like our churches, to be able to take advantage of renewable energy, particularly solar energy. But the funding for that program was limited. I mean, it was considerable, but it was limited, so not as many people could take advantage of it. So one of the things that we asked or recommended in our statement was to increase that funding, which did end up being in the bill that recently passed. So it went from, I believe, $10 million a year to $50 million a year. So it was a significant increase in funding for that important program to get more renewable energy, solar energy in the state.
I think one of the things that oh, I'm sorry, were you done? I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead. Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I think one of the interesting things that happened last session was there was a piece of legislation, and it did have many aspects of it were positive from our perspective in terms of things that we would probably like to see, all things being equal. But when it gets commingled with all these other issues, like there was this big issue on what wound up delaying the enactment of the bill, which was when should a coal-fired and natural gas-fired two plants in central and southern Illinois, when should they close, on what dates, and also the accompanying attention that was given to those that would be affected by the closure of those plants, number one. But secondly, also them meeting certain deadlines, like in ensuing years from today, before they closed, on how they would reduce the dirty air that they were emitting, and when to do that and how to do that was really what delayed the enactment of it. And secondly, this bill was also tied with requests from Commonwealth Edison, a major supplier of power, nuclear power, up in northern Illinois and in central Illinois, the Dresden and Byron plants, I believe it were. So they also needed additional funding to keep their operations going. So it really turned into quite a bill in terms of a lot of political interests, i.e. organized labor, representing workers at those coal-fired and natural gas-powered plants, and trying to protect the interests of the workers there in terms of if they were going to lose their job, what would happen and when. And also you had the interests of all the controversy around the Commonwealth Edison issue, when and how much money would go towards the subsidies for nuclear power that they were demanding, that they wanted in order to keep those plants operational. And also, quite frankly, some of the cloud that hangs over Commonwealth Edison because of allegations between what they had been doing and setting up a lobbying apparatus in the General Assembly and how that played into it. So all this stuff made this very confusing at the end. And quite frankly, it drew it out for months on end. I think I can remember being in the Capitol at the end of session in May, and I thought that bill passed. I thought it was done. I saw some of the environmental lobbyists celebrating, and I just thought it was done. And then when the session ended, what was it? I think the Senate president refused to send that bill to the governor unless certain things he held it, right? So so all this kind of resulted in sort of a very interesting set of circumstances over the last 6 months or so? Well, it hasn't been however long since May, 5 months or so. So it was an interesting development in terms of what actually happened. But nevertheless, I think most of the environmental groups are quite content with what ultimately passed. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, my understanding is that, in the end, it was an agreed to bill for the most part. Obviously not everyone's going to be happy with everything,
right?
But I believe the environmental groups are happy with it. It did have a lot of the provisions, like I said, for example, the increased funding for the Solar for All program. It discussed, ways to create a jobs program, jobs training for a lot of people. So it'll hopefully create a lot of jobs in the industry, clean energy industry. It sets the goals that the environmental groups wanted to reach in terms of eventually getting to 100% renewable energy by, I think it's 2050, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's at a timetable, as you mentioned, the coal and gas plants, a timetable for them to eventually become carbon free, or if they're not able to reach those goals, then they'll have to close. But it sets a timetable for them that was agreed to. So I think for the most part, all the groups involved were happy with what ended up being passed.
And this is part of the dilemma we face with this topic as well. I think you mentioned one of the goals in this is to go to 100% renewable by the year 2050. Well, that sounds great, but it's 2021, and so we're looking at how many years and counting here? 26 years and counting. So I wait, 50 minus 21 that's not right. What am I doing? 29, right? Is that right? Yeah, 29 years and counting. That's a pretty hefty goal to accomplish. And how we accomplish that and how we do that is not really up to the 6 diocesan bishops in the state of Illinois. It's interesting also, like from the advocacy perspective, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but does nuclear count in that calculation, or is their goal to close all the nuclear plants by 2050? I think they don't count nuclear, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I'm not sure either, Bob. I don't think it is, because I think the funding, the subsidies for the nuclear power plants with Exelon was limited for the next, I want to say 5 years or so.
Right,
so I don't think we're anticipating that it'll be long term. Plants.
And I think those have a shelf life. Those nuclear plants have a shelf life, and after that point in time, they're subject to renewals. But I don't think, at least at the current climate, there would be open to renewing those things for a length of time beyond a very short period of time, if at all. So that's my point, is that this whole topic is I think Laudato Si is absolutely worth reflecting on. It's a great document in terms of principles and putting forward together some lofty goals. How do we get there and how do we do those sort of things is up to each one of us. While we got a couple minutes, I think it's worth talking about, but I know, like, for example, the Minnesota Catholic Conference put out some recommendations, and I don't know if you want to speak to this all, Marilou, but I think one of the things that Laudato Si tries to do is to draw attention to what we can each one of us do as individuals in order to reduce our tax, our burden on the planet, and how can we all work towards reducing pollution in our areas. But I don't know if you want to say anything more to that topic in terms of how we could do that or what we could do. But I think that's something that we gloss over often, and we talk about these lofty public policy goals. But I think the part of that document is also to draw attention to what we can do as individuals.
Yes, absolutely. In the Diocese of Joliet, for example, they have a Care for Creation ministry, and they work with the communities and parishes on how to do some of those, like you mentioned, practical things that would help the environment. Similarly, in the Archdiocese, there's a working group that is working with parishes and
Right.
schools and individuals on ways to, do things to help save the environment. And same with the other dioceses at differing levels. They work with other environmental groups in their areas. So definitely the dioceses are very interested in how to help parishes and individuals in the communities really do things that can help with the environment, on a personal level.
Right. I know. I mean, and there's little things that are being looked at too. But the challenge we have as a diocese is that, just being honest, a lot of these buildings that we occupy were not built yesterday. They were not built under clean energy specs. They are older buildings. They were not necessarily built with heat efficiency and design. They have old windows. They have old rooftops. They're constructed of materials that were safe at the time, but we've since learned that they're not the safest today. So addressing those things is very difficult and very costly. And so I think we need to do what we can do. And I know we're trying to do that. I know like the cemeteries are trying to engage in low emitting lawnmowers, pollution, low noise and gas and things like that. And they're trying to do that. So there's little things we can do, but they're short incremental steps. And I guess at the end of the day, they will make a dent in reducing carbon emissions. But boy, it's not an easy road ahead of us to make that substantial. And that's why, as I mentioned, the 100% renewable by year 2050 is a great goal. But just in our own little world, how would we help get to that is very costly.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely. Yeah. I think it will take time. Obviously, the bill, it tries to provide some funding, some investments to try and get to that goal. But like you say, we'll have to see. Everybody has to do their part. Really, I think, like you said, we have to do both at the personal, individual level, the things that the diocese through their different ministries are trying to promote, as well as these wider policies for the state. So hopefully all together we'll try and get there.
Great. Marilou, thanks for taking some time to join us this morning. Thanks for all your work on the Clean Energy Jobs Act. Is that what we're calling it? That was the final one, right? We finally got that right. They keep changing the titles on us. No, they did change it, but whatever. We know what we're talking about. Thanks for taking some time this morning. Very good. So with that, we have about 2 minutes to go in our show. Let me just run down some things for the upcoming veto session that we're going to be working on. As I mentioned before, we're back. We're going to be working on the scholarship tax credit. We're talking about some small changes to it. Perhaps we'll talk about that on the show in October, but the tax credit scholarship is a continual project that we're working on. As many listeners may know, that program is due to sunset in 2 years from now, so all our focus is about doing what we can to build up support in the General Assembly, and it's going well. So we hope to continue working on that. And secondly, another subject, as I mentioned earlier, we're sure that there's going to be an effort to repeal the Illinois Parental Notification Act. So we'll be sending out requests to make phone calls, emails, meetings with your state representatives and state senators to ask them to retain the Illinois Parental Notification of Abortion Act. It's a good law. It's reducing the number of abortions in our state. We want to keep it. But as I was talking with Jennifer Allmon, the Texas Catholic Conference Director, unfortunately, when one state does something like that, which is that controversial, makes that much national news, states like Illinois feel they have to have a response, and the response would not be something we're supporting. And as I mentioned earlier, they're looking at the possibility of opening up, allowing others to perform abortions in addition to medical doctors. That would be advanced practice nurses and physician assistants. But we don't know where that is. We're speculating at this point in time. Veto session begins on October 19th, so we'll be preparing for that in the next couple weeks ahead. This is Bob Gilligan of the Catholic Conference of Illinois. Thank you for listening to our program this morning. Hope you have a good week, a good day, and a good week. And perhaps when we talk in October, we'll be talking about a White Sox World Series, and that would make our producer, Mike May, so happy. He's a Cubs fan. We should pray for Mike and all Cubs fans. All right. Thanks for listening to our show this morning. Have a good week.
Join us every Monday through Friday at this time for Catholic Chicago. You can stream our programs live or listen to past programs by visiting our website, archchicago.org, and clicking on Radio TV. And please connect with Catholic Chicago on social media.